last time we learned a bit about Python, and today we are going to continue that. And in this video, I'm thinking that last time we covered uh, printing in Python, but in this video, we're going to look into conditions. So, what are conditions? So, basically, what we want to create a program is what it will do is basically if we want to, if there's a certain condition that's fulfilled, we want to do something, but if it's not fulfilled, we want to do something else. So, let's take an example. If I have a name and if it's Faisal, I will print yes, it's my name, and if it's not equals to Faisal, I will print it's not my name. So I hope that's clear. So we'll just open the file in Vim, and so this was the file that we created last time. I'll just create the like everything. I'll just delete everything, and we can just get started. So how are conditions handled in Python? So let's discuss that. So to handle conditions, we have basically if and else. So if, so I'll just write it here. If certain condition is met, then we do it to this, and else, else means that if it wasn't met, then we'll do this. So this is the basic syntax of how it works. So instead of condition here, we can write our own like condition. So if 1 equals to 2, then we'll do this, but if it's not, else we'll do this. So is 1 equals to 2? No, it's not. So the answer will be false. So a condition only has like two answers. Either it can be true or it can be false. So this here, it's a condition, and its result is a false, which means that this won't be done, but whatever we wrote within the else block, that will be done. So you must be wondering, why are we writing 2 equals to here? And that's the basic, like, that's how we have conditional operators in across every single language. So if you want to check equality, whether something is equals to something else, so if you want to check if 1 is equals to 2, we use double equals to. And if we want to check if it's not equals to, in some languages exclamation mark equals to and 2, uh, but in Python we actually do like 1 is equals to 2, right? So we just put a not operator, so it's read like if, so 1's equals to 2 and then not. So this equates to if 1 is not equals to 2. Okay, you can actually do it like this as well, I think, in Python, and it would be the same thing. So in my terminal, it actually like converts it to this ligature, which basically makes it look like not equals to. But what I'm actually writing here is like an exclamation mark and then 1 equals to. Now, other than this, there can be like greater than, less than, and then less than equals to. Yeah, the same thing is happening here. I'm writing less than and equals to, but it's showing as like whatever we wrote in maths, and greater than equals to. Now if you want like not greater than equals to, that's not recommended in Python. So if you want a certain condition, like if 1 is greater than equals to 0, and you want to check whether it's not greater than equals to, just use the less than sign. Just instead of using like uh, if you want the opposite of this, the opposite of this would be this sign here. So that's how we have our relational operators in Python. So here we are checking if 1 is equals to do, will do something. Since you also know that this is not actually like valid Python syntax here. So we'll just replace this do this line with with a print statement. So if 1 is equals to 2, we'll print 1 is equals to 2. Okay, and if it's not equals to 2, we'll print 1 is not equal to 2. Okay, yeah. So what do you think it will print? It will basically just print 1 is not equals to 2. That's it. And if we write and quit and then run this file, so python 3 main.py, it will print 1 is not equal to 2. So that's how you use conditions in Python. Now one thing you have to make sure, and it's basically how you write Python. One thing is this colon here. So in order for Python to know what code to execute when this if statement is true, it has to know where it's starting and where it's ending. So how would it know that? In other languages we specify it by some sort of brackets, but here what we're doing is this colon specifies that whatever comes after this line or after this colon is under the if statement, and also it has to be indented, which means a tab has to be pressed. So here I pressed a tab, which means this much space came. So this just tells Python that this line is under if. But if I do something like this, if I have if I write it here, right, this does not come under this if statement. So this will get executed no matter what. Do you understand? If like this line is under this if statement, so only if this statement is true, then only this will get executed. But this line, since it's not indented, I didn't add a tab here, right? If I press tab, now it's under this if statement. But if I remove this, it is standalone. It's not under anything. It doesn't have any condition like map to it. So which means that this will always get executed. So if I write this uh, and run it, it basically says that invalid syntax. So the thing is, the reason it's not running it is because after an if statement, if you specify an else statement, it has to be like just whatever you wrote inside the if statement, which means that you cannot specify something else after an if statement. If there's an else statement, only the things that are inside the if block will come, nothing else. Since this is not inside the if block, this gives us an error. Now what if we don't want an else statement, if we only want to print if 1 is equals to 2, then we'll print it, otherwise we won't do anything. So we won't use the else statement, and this will work just fine. And now this will also not give us the error of that else thing. Since we're not using else, what it will do, it will go line by line. Okay, so it will go to if and check if 1 equals to 2, is it, it's check if 1 is equals to 2, the answer is false, it will like okay, I won't execute whatever is in one indentation. So it's in one indentation, I just ignore this. And then this print, there's no condition, it's like print 1. Okay, I'll print 1. So if I just save this and run it again, it will print 1. Okay, and in order to for us to remove that error, we'll have to add this line after an else block. So what we just learned is that uh, you cannot write something, you cannot like add a line, add a statement in between if and else block that doesn't belong to either of them. Like it has to belong to something. So if this print statement belongs to if it didn't belong to if, it would give us an error. But since this if else condition is complete, right? This is one part of the program, but after it anything can come, but not in between this. So I hope that's clear. Now what if we want multiple cases, right? What if we want, if 1 is equals to 2, print something, but if it's not equals to 2, then print something else, and if 1 is less than 2, then print something else. So how do we handle multiple conditions? So the thing is that in order to handle multiple conditions, there is something known as else if. So this is also the same for every single language like Java, C++, and but in Python we called it elif. We combine the word else if and just make a single word called elif. So if we see our program here, I'll just delete this line for now. And if we see our program here, it says basically if 1 is equals to 2, print 1 equals 2, else print 1 is not equals to 2. We want to add another condition. You know, if we have 1 is equals to 2, we'll print the same. But if 1 is less than 2, I'll print 1 is less than 2. And if 1 is greater than 2, I'll print 1 is greater than 2. And else I'll just give it like 1 is not equals to 2. So in order to add more conditions, I can just add one thing called elif, which means that if this is not true, then come here. Else if 1 is less than 2, then print 1 is less than 2. Okay, and so how will this work? So first it'll go, if 1 is equals to 2, is it equals to 2? No, it's not, it's false. Now it will go else if 1 is less than 2, is 1 less than 2? Yes it is, so it will print 1 less than 2. Now since this condition has been met and we were able to execute this, it won't go to the else statement, it won't go to the else condition. So earlier, if this was true, it wouldn't have gone to the else condition. But now since the elif condition is true, it won't go to the else condition. It only goes to the next condition if the previous condition was false. And anytime it gets a true condition, it won't go to the next one. It will exit out of everything and be like here. It will be like, okay, I leave this if else block, I come after it, whatever is after this if else block, I'll execute this now. So that's how this works. Let's just test this out. We'll just save and close this and open and try to run it, and it prints out 1 is less than 2 as we expected. So it printed out this, it didn't print out this, neither this. And similar to this condition, you can have like hundreds of more conditions using this. If I wanted to add another condition, if elif 1 is greater than 2, that I can also do. But just make sure of that indentation, just add that tab. And if I want to, elif 1 is greater than equals to 2, then I'll print something else. But you get the idea, right? So how does this help us? So basically, this is like the core programming in the core programming. So how can we use this? So what if I give you my name? No, even better. So what if I give you my email and you want to check if it's valid or not? If it's a valid email, so you would use an if else block, if else condition. So you would have certain condition to check whether the email is valid, and if it's valid you will tell me it is valid, but if it's not, you'll tell me that it's not valid. So do we want to do that right now? So that we can do. So I'll just delete this whole thing. So double D to delete a line. Okay. So how do you store something in Python? So in Python, it's really easy to store anything. You know what a number is, you know what a string is. I told you in the last video. So anything you want to store somewhere or you want to give a name to. For example, I have a string called uh, why is it not right name? Yeah. Okay, so if I have a string of my name, now I want to store it somewhere. You know, I want the program to remember my name. So I can store it. I For me to store something, first I have to give it a name. You know, so I'll give it a name. So this is my name. So I'll call it by my name only. And then if I want to store it, I'll use the equals operator, a single equals. See, this is the reason why we were using double equals. So we use double equals because single equals was already taken by assignment. So what is assignment? We basically have something, a value basically, and we are assigning this value to a variable. What is a variable? A variable only stores a value. You can ask it to store anything. In Python, we don't have a type of variable. We do actually under the hood, but if you want, this will also work. So, this is a variable that basically stores your name. And Python, wherever you like mention this variable to Python, it will refer to this value. Okay, so one use of this is if you try to print this variable, right? If you try to print this, then it will print the value of the variable. It won't print the actual name of the variable. It will print the value of the variable. So that's how it's useful. So you see how I didn't use double quotes here. If I would have used double quotes, it would have printed out name exactly, like NAME. But since it's a variable, we don't use double quotes. We use double quotes for strings. So this is a variable that stores a string whose value is Faisal. And when I use this variable and I print it, it prints the value. First it checks, okay, he told me to print this name. And what is this name? A name is Faisal. So I'll print Faisal. But instead it goes line by line. So first line it will be like, okay, so he is trying to make a variable which, and what's the value of the variable? He also gave the value. Now he's trying to print something and he's trying to print the variable that he specified before. And so I'll just print it because I know it already. But if if the computer didn't know what the value of the variable was, so for example, uh, I specified the name. I tried to print it first and then specify it. What do you think will happen? First, it will be like, okay, it's asking me to print something. Okay, it's asking me to print a name. Okay, sure. But what is a name? It doesn't even know what a name is. It doesn't care what's on the next line. You know, it's a line by line code. So it does. It's just seeing this, and it's like, what is the name? What is name? It doesn't know. So you specified name later, but how would your Python program know? It here only it will be like, okay, there's nothing called name. What are you trying to print? It will give us an error. So if I wanted to show it to you, it will be like name is not defined. You're trying to print name, but it's not even defined what. So that is the reason why Python goes line by line. Many languages actually go line by line, but yeah, Python specifically. So yeah, this is why it's important for you to know the flow of the program. So if I specified my name as Faisal, I can use the if else condition, you know. So let's just say I gave it, the user only gave this value. In the future, we'll learn about input. Maybe in this video only if I feel like it. But here you will just learn about. So if the user only gives this value, and we want to check if this name is equals to Faisal, I will print hi Faisal. But if it's not equals to Faisal, I will print who are you. So if I wanted to do this, I would do if name is equals to Faisal, I would print hi. But if it's not, which means else, I'll print who are you. Okay, I'll save it and close it, and it says hi because the value is actually the same thing. If I change this to something like let's just call it Arish, and if I save it again and run it, it will be like who are you, because the name is actually not equals to Faisal. It's that simple. Let's open it again. So that's all about variables and if else conditions. Now I think we should start with input. So in any language out there, you can take input from the user in when you're running the program. So how do you do that? How do you take input from the user? And also in the last video I told you to how you can print multiple things, right? So if I wanted to print hi and then the name, I could just use the comma and just print name here, and that would print the name hi and then the name. But it has to be true, so we'll just try to save it and then run it, and it's like hi Faisal. Although I didn't write Faisal specifically, I used a variable here with hi, it did it for me, so I don't have to write it again and again. Okay, so now let's talk about input. So right now we specified the variable by ourselves in the program, but we do not want that, it's not interactive. So what if I want the user only to tell their name and I'll check? So for example, ask the user to enter their name, and if they enter Faisal, I'll be like hi, access granted. But if it's not, if it's not Faisal, I'll just print out access denied, because I only want to give access to Faisal. So I'll just change my messages here. I'll just change it to first access granted, and here I'll change it to access denied. So this will basically help us. So here we are checking whether it's equal to Faisal or not. But we do not want to specify this variable. We want to take it from the user. So how do we do that? There is a function called input. Similar to how print is, print prints out anything that you want, right? And input takes whatever the user writes. So if we use a variable, instead of specifying the value here, we just use the input function here. It will assign the value whatever the user enters, it will give that value to this variable. You understand that? So let's just say this is how it goes. So Python program will come here. It will be like, okay, you want me to create a name variable? Okay, I'll create it. What is its value? But so for its value, it calls an input function. Okay, so you want an input from the user, from whoever ran the program. Okay, then it will wait for the user to enter something, to enter like their name, and then press enter. And as soon as they press enter, they'll take that value and assign it to this name. Okay, then after it has gotten assigned, it will be like if name is equals to Faisal. So whatever value was given by input and now is stored in name, it will compare that to this. And if it's the same, it will print this. But if it's not the same, it will print access denied. So let's just try to run it. Save it and run. So as you can see, I ran the program, right? But nothing happened. It's trying to ask me to do something here. What do you think it's trying to do? So the program is asking me to write something. It's asking for an input. So I'll just give it my name here and press enter. And as soon as I pressed enter, it told me access granted, and the program ended. So that's how inputs work in Python. Now there's something other than this. So if so right now we don't even specify the user what they want to enter, right? We're not even asking like what they have to enter. They might get stuck and be like, why is this program not running? So we can also give a prompt for them to know what they have to enter. So here we are asking them to enter their name, right? So inside this input function, inside these brackets, we can specify some text. So we can specify the text here, which will be a string, and whatever we write in this in these brackets in this string, it it will be printed out, and it will be shown to the user before they enter something. So if we specify here, what is your name, and if we specify the string here, it will show it and be like, what is your name? And after this, the user will be able to enter their name. So this makes our program much more intuitive. So if I just save this and run it again, it's like, what is your name? It asks me something so that I actually know that what I have to do. I have to tell it my name. So if I tell it Arish, it says access denied because it's not actually equal to Faisal. Got it? So let's just we can change this message to anything else. We can even ask like, enter your name. We can be like, enter here, you know, and this is all inside a string, and that's the most important part. So now they know they have to enter it here, you know. And one more thing, if you want to get out of a program in your terminal, you just hold control and just press C. That will go out of your program. This is basically keyboard interrupt, and this works for anything, not just Python programs. So this is how inputs work in Python.